Happy autumn, everyone. Today is Halloween 2023, and it's really been a, a really dramatic change of season where I live. Last week on Tuesday, we were 80-ish degrees, and today it is cold and windy and overcast, and the kids were freezing on Beggar's Night. So that is just how quick it can change, right? But this cooler weather, it just goes with hearty food. And so when fall rolls around and it's darker earlier, I really crave those comfortable recipes, right? Those ones that are warm and filling and they just leave you feeling really, really good. So today I'm going to share just a few of my favorite Irish comfort food recipes. As always, you can click the show notes. It'll take you over and you'll be able to get the recipes for the foods I'm talking about today, as well as a few others that I have on my site that I'm not throwing into the pot today. So I'm a fair cook. I'm not a great chef. I don't make recipes, but I enjoy fiddling with recipes that I really like and getting them to a point where I absolutely love them. So the recipes that I'm sharing today are recipes that I have found, they're old family recipes, or I found them in a cookbook and changed them up. I've done something to them a little bit, but like I said, these are not my recipes at the base. They're just changed up a little bit to make them so I like them a little bit better. But anyway, some of my favorite Irish recipes for fall include brown bread. Now, this is a wheaten bread. Um, Depending on where you are in Ireland, they'll call it brown bread, they'll call it brown soda bread, they'll call it wheaten bread. Really just, it's all the same thing. It is an easy soda bread that's made with wheat flour, bran, and germ. And I toss in old-fashioned oats to give it a grainier texture. You can also add some seeds if you want to. That's yummy. I use molasses in mine to give it a really deep, rich flavor, but you can use honey as well to sweeten it. Comes together super easy. It doesn't require any loaf pans or anything. You just form it with your hands into a nice round and you pop it in the oven. Um, and I love it. I love it just as a snack slathered with honey or jam. It's so good with eggs and black pudding for breakfast. Goes great with soups and stews. So one of my staples in the fall is the Irish brown bread. The next one is Irish stew with Guinness. Now, this is just, oh, it's so good for those long, cold nights. It's just really warming and makes you feel comfortable. And my family celebrates when I make this because it's such a great recipe. Now, I use beef in my Irish stew because I live in Iowa. We have the cows. But if you have lamb readily available, go ahead and use that. I also add more Guinness than it calls for in the recipe. I think the recipe only calls for like a quarter cup, and I usually use a whole bottle. Partially because I don't drink Guinness. Nobody in my house drinks Guinness, so it's not like I can pour some into the soup and then hand it off to my husband and say, "Here, finish this." Um, and also, it just gives that little tanginess to the stew that we really like. Now, this recipe comes together in under an hour, but I actually prefer to make mine like around lunchtime and then let it simmer on low all afternoon. And then the potatoes are super tender and it just gives it that really hearty, beautiful, rich, meaty flavor. Now, obviously, if you do that, you don't want to add the carrots and the potatoes because they'll be mush by the time, if you simmer it for 6 hours. But if I have those chopped and then I add them about halfway through, it's all good. Um, but so yummy. Now, something that does come together super easy is a shepherd's pie. Now, I make mine with cheddar on top, so it's got this beautiful cheesy crust over the top. But it basically is just this super simple casserole of ground beef or ground lamb, and vegetables, and then mashed potatoes, and I grate a nice, beautiful Irish cheddar over mine. So you want to use like an aged Irish cheddar, like Dubliner, and just really coat the top with Irish cheese to give it that beautiful golden cheesy crust. And then instead of using water in my shepherd's pie, I use Guinness because it just adds depth to the flavor of the meat. So super, super yummy. Um, Next are my Irish Trilogy cupcakes. Now, these are super time consuming, so I don't make them as often as I'm asked to make them. But when I make them, it's like there's celebrations and confetti and everything all over the place because they are so popular with my friends and family. In fact, I give them as Christmas gifts, and people look forward to them every year. I have had teachers that used to get them from my girls email me and ask for the recipe because they used to get them as Christmas gifts. And when my girls moved out of their classes, they missed them and wanted to be able to make them. So anyway, they are a little bit time consuming, but if you want a real treat, they're worth every bit of effort. The trilogy comes in from Guinness, which is used for the chocolate cake, and whiskey, which is used for the rich chocolate ganache, and then Irish cream, which is used in the frosting. So, and it's just all beautiful, delicious. I use more whiskey than the recipe calls for, and way more Irish cream than the recipe calls for. So if you are heavy-handed with the alcohol, especially because when you make the ganache, most of the whiskey will burn out, and then I'll add in a little bit more for that little bit of a kick. And the same with the Irish cream, you don't cook that out. So you want to be very careful if you are heavy-handed with the alcohol when you're baking like I am. Either make a couple of batches so that one batch is kid-friendly, and or just, keep the kids out of them altogether. But so yummy, worth every bit of effort, and you will get rave reviews if you take these to a party this fall or winter. And then finally, I have a recipe on my site for bread and butter pudding with Irish whiskey sauce. Now, this recipe came from the Woolen Mills restaurant in Dublin, and the only way I alter it is, and I'm heavy with the whiskey in the sauce, but and then I'm also not a fan of raisins, so I'll take out the raisins or the sultanas. They're not my favorite thing. I'll either remove them completely or I'll replace them with chopped apricots, dried apricots. Those are really good in this. And then, like I said, when I'm done cooking the sauce, I add another splash of whiskey for that little bit extra flavor and a wee little kick to the sauce. So, the sauce on the sauce, Anyway, those are a few of my favorite Irish recipes just for fall. You can get the links to these recipes in the show notes, and I even have a few more recipes that you can get your hands on, and you can find those at IrelandFamilyVacations.com/recipes, and that basically takes you to a page that lists all the recipes. It's kind of under a St. Patrick's Day banner because every year I do a St. Patrick's Day feast and I make all of this and then a little bit more. So, and that's kind of our kickoff to spring, right? So, if you are feeling like you would like to have a little bit of Irish food on your table, or you just need some really good comfort food, I hope you'll check these out, and I hope you'll let me know if you make them and if you enjoy them. And then also, if you have a favorite Irish recipe that you would like to share with me, send it my way. I would love to try it, and and add it maybe to my list of favorites. You can always email me, Jody, Jody, at IrelandFamilyVacations.com, and just put in the subject bar what it is you're emailing about, whether you're sending me a recipe or maybe you have a question that you would like me to answer on the podcast. I would love to hear from you. As always, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, slán go fóill.